Hello and welcome to VCC TV. This is Joseph Rai. While global cab-hailing company Uber Technologies Inc. is still scouting for its CEO, the company is reportedly getting an investment of between $2 and $10 billion from 4 investors. One of the investors is Japan's SoftBank. However, this comes in the backdrop of the boardroom struggle that's going on in Uber Technologies, with venture capital firm Benchmark suing former CEO of Uber, Travis Kalanick, of defrauding investors and withholding information from directors. To break this up, we have with us our senior assistant editor, Aman Malik. Now, this reported investment comes in the backdrop of the boardroom struggle in Uber Technologies. And we understand that Travis, the former CEO of Uber, is very keen on getting SoftBank's investments. So do you think that Uber will relinquish 2 extra seats on its board to get this investment?
Whether this by itself would sort of force Kalanick to relinquish these seats, one does not really know, but it would be prudent if he did that. That is because if this deal were to go through and these 4 new shareholders were to come aboard, it would give Uber a valuation of close to $70 billion. And it would allow existing shareholders, some of whom have been very jittery, to essentially cash out of Uber and new guys to come in. We have to understand that the deal, as is being reported by Bloomberg and other sources, would be structured in 2 ways. In 2 parts rather. One would be a primary funding deal, which would be a direct infusion into Uber, a new infusion into Uber of the tune of $1 to $1.5 billion. And then it would be a secondary deal ranging between 2 to 10 billion US dollars, where 4 new funders would come in. This deal would essentially allow existing shareholders, as I said, to cash out.
What does this have to say about SoftBank's focus on the cab-hailing segment? Do you think, with the recent money that it raised, it's going to invest more on the sector across geographies in Asia?
SoftBank's actually already been invested in various cab-hailing apps across Asia. Even if you discount the Uber deal that's yet to happen, SoftBank's been invested in India into Ola, it's been invested in Singapore into Grab Taxi. SoftBank has had an investment in Didi Chuxing, which itself was at loggerheads with Uber in China, but then the 2 sort of patched up. Uber essentially gave in, and now they have cross shareholdings within each other. We need to understand that both in India vis-a-vis Ola and in Singapore vis-a-vis Grab Taxi, Uber has been burning a lot of money. So it would be prudent for SoftBank to make a significant investment into Uber, but it would also sort of be incumbent upon SoftBank at the same time to ensure that there isn't a general burnout both ways. I mean, these fights will have to be, in a way, SoftBank will have its hand in both pies, and therefore it'll have to be very prudent in the way it goes about investing in these competing companies. So SoftBank essentially sees that there is growth potential in these markets like India and Singapore. That is one aspect of it. So they see a runway remaining significantly long as yet. But more importantly, they also see the prospect of having more than one ride-hailing app exist, or rather coexist. Unlike, say, the American market, where also Uber and Lyft exist, but Uber is clearly the more dominant player.
Now that SoftBank is looking to invest in Uber, does Ola, which is another major cab-hailing company in India, need to worry about intensifying competition? And also, we know that SoftBank already has an investment in Ola, and with investment now in Uber also, is it looking at consolidation in India?
Whether consolidation will happen or not, I think only time will tell, but I don't really expect immediate consolidation. Like I said, it is not necessary that the market will eventually turn out to be a market for the last or the strongest person standing, or the strongest company standing in this case. It will be certainly a market where people will coexist with each other. We also need to understand that in India, the regulator, unlike the US, the regulator may not allow a single monopolistic company to exist. So if the government, or the regulator rather, actually sees that Uber or Ola for that matter, either one of the companies is actually building a monopolistic sort of developing into a monopolistic empire, they could step in and they could essentially play a role. A market like India will not really afford such a setup. So I don't really think Ola is going away anywhere. That is point number one. Now, there is another aspect to it. We need to understand that the investments that Uber is making, that SoftBank is likely to make into Uber are late stage investments. Which means what? Which essentially means that these investments are unlikely to give SoftBank any strategic control over Uber. So it will not, in all likelihood, be a controlling authority or a controlling power. So it will not sort of be able to, decide on Uber's fortunes all by itself or with a few allies. So therefore, it would, at best, for SoftBank be an investment that they'd seek to profit out of and eventually at some stage either remain within or get out of a few years hence. So I don't really think Ola would, to that effect, be impacted. But yes, it would mean that Ola would, on its own, and it has been trying to do that, it would need to diversify its own set of investors. So Ola may want to get funding from various other places and sort of, reduce the effective shareholding that a SoftBank has in itself.
Thank you so much for those insights, Aman. And we'll have to wait and see if SoftBank indeed invests in Uber. That's all we have in this edition of VCC TV. Thank you for watching.